us. Old museums were like this, it was all filled up, but eventually today we like to have more space, and that makes things kind of difficult. Our early museums that we have pictures of, there are two. One is the UST Museum, which still exists, and the second is the Ateneo Municipal Museum, which doesn't exist anymore. And when you look at the UST Museum, this is around the 1900s. It was filled with books, shells, mostly stuffed animals. And my first visit to the UST Museum, it was one of the things that I remember the most. Before they fixed it up, it was always closed. So you always had to knock, and the person will open it, and if he's in a good mood, then you will be in a good mood too. But oftentimes they feel that you were a bother that you even knock. So you bothered their sleep. And when you would go in, it was dark, and it was just stuffed animals. And frankly, I sort of like the disarray in that old museum, because now, anyway, there's this guy with the stuffed animals. Now it looks like this. Looks like a decent museum already. There was some fun to going into the museum that was jumbled up, because it was a place for discovery, a place to find things, but things are now neatly arranged. So again, you can ask the museum curators about it. The stuffed animals are there, they're now clean. You won't get allergy anymore when you go in. And I think they've dusted them of the arsenic. In some old museum collections, to preserve things, they put arsenic. So that when I went to the US, there was, I think it was the Smithsonian Bodega, where they asked me to sign a waiver. So first they explained, these things are dusted with arsenic, we clean it, but there might be traces. So here is a lockdown, here are the gloves, here's the shower. So after you go in, you take your shower, make sure your hair, you rinse your hair, and then I have to sign a form that says if you die of arsenic poisoning, you willingly went into the bodega. So this is how it is today. So it's clean, nice, something that you will learn from, but the sense of discovery sort of disappeared. This is the Ateneo in Rizal's time, and I'd like to think that Rizal partly became the man that he was because he enjoyed going to the museum in school. So he was in his teens when he went to the Ateneo. The Ateneo was not yet a university, only UST was a university. So his Bachelor of Arts was actually a high school degree. So when he went there, this provinciano from Calamba, he went to a school where they were taught things like this, geography. This was their classroom. The seats they don't put many seats inside, so they would sit across each other and they would have games. So it's like, if you know your Harry Potter, you're arranged according to class or according to group. And you were given points for the merits for every stupid answer you made or every good thing that you made. So they would try to earn points. This was the kind of thing that they did. Rizal was interested in the arts, so he painted. So we have this early picture of him, his hair is still parted in the middle, where he's painting. And he took up sculpture. So this was the Ateneo sculpture display. So they had drawing, they had painting, they had sculpture, and Rizal actually was so good that in his teens, he made a sculpture of his favorite teacher. So if you could do this if you're 17 years old, that means you must be quite good. Fortunately, if you go to Fort Santiago, the face is now eroded. So all you see is just the body and part of the head. They also had music, so they studied music, and I always wondered how they could learn if you're playing all at the same time, or playing different things at the same time. This was the atmosphere in which he grew up, and this was what the museum they had. This was the Ateneo Museum, had a gallery, 2 floors, and it's stuffed animals again. Rizal liked the shells, the great deal that he mentions it in his diary. And it seems they even had stuffed crocodile. And I only noticed recently it had a platform, I think it had wheels. So they could pull it out like a pet. You know? And this was the museum that he grew up in, such that in later life, he started to collect things, especially when he was in the Pita. He collected butterflies, he collected shells, he collected fish. He organized them. He sent them to Europe, which is why there's a beetle that's named after him. There's a lizard that has Rizal after its scientific name, because Rizal got this idea of collecting from the museum that he grew up in. These objects, for example, he donated to a museum in Dresden, which survived the war. And 2 years ago, I went to the museum, and the photographs, all the objects were still there, preserved. They're not displayed, but this one, I don't even know what it is. An example of bronze casting in Mindanao. And if you look at it, this is also what he said, stuffed animals, you know, snakes, things in alcohol. But these were the things that made him what he was and made him known when he was in Europe. So, a museum is a community of scholars that's brought under one roof. It's also a way for the public to get to know things and come under one roof. This is just for museum. It will scare you when you read it, but basically it just talks about what a museum is. It's open to the public, it acquires, conserves, and researches and communicates exhibits to make the public more knowledgeable. So, again, we go back. What are our childhood memories of museums? This is the type of thing that I will tell you that we would see if you go abroad. They're looking at a Monet and they're just seated. Many times in museums they put the rope because they're too scared of people touching things. But I like to think if we teach people early, then they will know how to do things. Our problem in the Philippines is, for the teacher also, you dump the student in the museum and then you go out and have a drink. And come back for them after an hour. The teachers are not